Thanks to Kona Jerry's Barbecue to be a Southern flavor for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So we're really happy you made it to get the food and for the concert. The concert won't start until 12:30, so we have a half hour. At 15 minutes, at 12:15, we're going to have a ceremony with 3 illustrious speakers, each speaking about 5 minutes. And then the concert will begin at 12:30. My name is Bruce Delgado. I'm fortunate to be able to serve the City of Marina as its mayor. And there's a lot of volunteers here today, starting around 8 o'clock, setting up, planting fruit trees, and doing some other things. So they and the orchestra are now done eating. And we really appreciate everyone following the script of letting the volunteers orchestra eat first. When you're done with your food, it's a zero-waste lunch, which means everything gets reused. There's only one discard station. All the trash cans have been covered up, so you don't use those. There's a discard station between those 2 trees right there, and your napkins, your cups, your clamshells, your forks, your food scraps all go in a different place. So there won't be any waste from today's lunch, so that's really good. And we have some, we're looking for some CSUMB volunteers, so Andrew's gonna ask them to be found.
Hi, everyone. If you came over with CSUMB on the shuttle, we're going to be over in the corner of the parking lot heading out in just a couple of minutes. So make sure to head over there. Thank you. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. So this is the time. We have a few extra minutes before 12:15 to walk around and let each of you who want to speak tell us what this day means for you. Oh, we have an eager volunteer here to get started.
Thank you.
You can stand up.
Sure, I'll stand up. My name's Yvonne Thomas. I'm a past president of the Monterey County NAACP. So it is always a pleasure for me to come out to the community events where we honor Dr. Martin Luther King, remember his legacy, and remember what his dream is. That is why we're out here today. So don't forget of everything that's going on in the world today. Don't forget about why we're here today. It's his dream and his legacy. Thanks.
Woo! That was a pretty good start. Okay, raise your hand if you want to follow up there. Okay, I think we have another eager volunteer here. What does Martin Luther King mean for you?
What? Hello. Enjoy yourself. Sunny day.
All right, thank you. Okay. What would you like to say about today?
Today, I don't know if I can follow up on that, but yes, so just wanted to remember his legacy and then his dream, as the lady even mentioned earlier. So not just taking it as a holiday and then do nothing at home. We thought that we come out and then try to do something meaningful and then, do what's right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a local resident in Marina, and I was actually raised in the Monterey area. And growing up in California, I have a unique understanding that Martin Luther King Jr. Shared with all of us. It was taught in the schools, and I appreciate that we're all equal and we all bring value, and not to judge a book by its cover. You know, don't assume that somebody knows more or less than you just by the way they look, or maybe something that you were taught at a young age. Always open your mind and your heart and get to know each other. And I just appreciate this community event bringing us all together, and appreciate Dr. Martin Luther King. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is James Henderson, and what today means to me is social and cultural equality. I'm looking in the crowd now, and it's a whole lot of different faces and colors, and that's what the dream was really about, this right here that's taking place in front of us. Not just excluding sex, race, but also the neurodivergent also, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's equal, you know, and as long as we can realize that we're breathing the same air as one another, I think we'll be all right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else want to be volunteered? Just raise your hand. Oh, I see someone. She's so eager. So they all want to know what Martin Luther King Jr. Day means to you.
It means everything. I grew up, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. And that's where a lot of what Dr. King stood for, what he did, that area is very important in this part of history. And I am past president 2 terms of the Monterey Peninsula branch of the NAACP is what it was called then. So thank Marina for hosting this beautiful, beautiful event in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Okay, just raise your hand if you want to talk. Oh, Kelly. Okay, Kelly is a faculty at CSUMB.
Oh, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be saying.
What Martin Luther King Day means to you.
Oh, it's just amazing that, what are we, 60 years later now, and everybody's still getting together to celebrate the legacy. I think that speaks for itself.
And now we have an elementary school teacher.
Dr. Martin Luther King, for me, this day represents love, community, and doing what's right. Doing what's right for each other. And so that our children who are watching us every single day, we're making decisions to take care of each other, to love each other, to protect our planet. And I think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when I think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I think of community.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Valine. We have one of our leaders here.
Hi.
Good job. How old are you?
4. Say bye. Bye.
Hello, my name is Terry Ward, and what Martin Luther King Day represents to me is freedom. Given how the condition of our society was at the time when he began his marches to support everything that was about equality, things have changed drastically. Just a little tidbit about my lifestyle. I am a son of a grandson of a man who was lynched because of the Jim Crow era, a black man lynched for looking at a white woman. When we look back at that history and see from whence Martin Luther King helped bring us from, it's a beautiful thing to think that we can all consider ourselves equal, have love for one another, love people who are not of our same race, and enjoy life as we're enjoying it today. So thank you. Thank you, Marina, for the support for Martin Luther King Day.
Well, that brought some tears to my eyes. Who else would like to speak? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Cassandra.
There you go. What Martin Luther King Day means to me is living his dream. My parents came from Mississippi, and growing up, I would always hear my dad talk about the inequalities that he experienced, and even going into when he joined the military, just how he was treated, how he was sent to the West Coast for his last 2 tours of duty, and just talking with him and realizing that in the military, the West Coast of the U.S. was known as a more liberal area, so a lot of the mixed race couples were sent to the West Coast. And so growing up, I didn't realize that here in Marina. I always say I lived on the street of the United Nations because I had friends from Guam, from Korea, from Japan living on our street, and I never realized it as a kid. But so Martin Luther King Day for me means equality, and actually living his, like I said, living his dream, and doing what we can do to better ourselves and our community. Yeah.
And if you haven't eaten yet or visited Marina Brass Tap, Cassandra is a big part of that, having opened it. And so it's a really great new place to go in the city of Marina. You go there, and I pinch myself, like, this is in Marina? Pretty good. Right next to Trader Joe's, right? Now, this is Alex Stewart. He's a frequent daily park visitor.
I just want to say that it's always the right time to do the right thing. It's my favorite MLK quote.
Very nice. Martine, you're next. What's Martin Luther King Day mean to you?
Oh, thank you. Welcome, everyone. What Martin Luther King means to me is, like everyone has said, to be free in the heart, to be free in the mind. So today is a good celebration to celebrate that. Also, too, today is Leonard Peltier. He's free. If you know Leonard Peltier, he was incarcerated for more than 45 years. So he's a free man now, thanks to Joe Biden. He pardoned him. So thank you very much, all my relations.
Okay, last word goes to Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. I grew up in New York in the 1960s, and I must admit that during that turmoil time, as a kid, I didn't really understand what's going on. And over the years, I learned and I understood. And were it not for Martin Luther King, I would not have my 2 beautiful grandchildren because my son-in-law is a black man. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. And Vic is a volunteer for the city on our planning commission, and that takes a lot of study and time, so thank you very much, Vic. So now we're going to move more into our official program, where we have a few minutes to thank our sponsors before we turn it over to our ceremony. And I hope that Kathy Biala and the 3 speakers are ready to go in a few minutes. But I wanted to point out, kind of in the vein of Martin Luther King Jr., that we're on land that was respected and cared for and lived in by Native Americans of the Esalen and Rumsen tribes. So we always want to remember, whose land this started out being. And now it's owned and managed by the Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District, MPRPD. They do a really good job taking care of lands all around Big Sur to Marina. This being one of them, a beautiful park, what we call our Central Park. It's very much like Central Park to Marina, as Golden Gate is to San Francisco and New York Central Park. This is ours. So it's a real treasure here, and MPRPD helped organize this event, pass out the bracelets, put out the press release, other things, insurance, because they own the land, and they've been a very great partner to the city. The city manages the land. They help mow the lawn and bring all the tables and chairs and clean up around here, so today it looks nice for you all. Our Marina Library staff opened today. It's a day off for them. It's closed for them, but they came to give us power to their electrical system and open up the restrooms and things like that. So thanks to the Marina Library. Citizens for Sustainable Marina is a small ragtag group of volunteers who are here 52 weeks a year on Saturdays, rain or shine, doing everything in the Oak Woodland Community Garden. And there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot more coming. Today, the volunteers at 9 o'clock started the launch of a food forest, which is a community forest that's full of food. And today they planted 18 fruit trees. So that took about 50 volunteers to do that. And that will be, the next several years, we'll be adding to the food forest. So it has 8 layers of food with the trees on the top and underground, things that grow like Jerusalem artichokes and other things. So that's Citizens for Sustainable Marina. They put in all the heavy lifting along with the city of Marina. So thanks to C4SM for doing all that, with special recognition to Steve Lee, the man in the yellow jacket. He's looking around for himself right now. So Steve is in charge of logistics and much, much more. So he is really the centerpiece of the organization by the volunteers. So thank you, Steve, and to all the people that helped you put this together. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Councilwoman Kathy Biala, and she's going to be the master of ceremonies for our inspiring ceremony before the orchestra, Monterey County Pops, gets started.
Thank you very much, and it's so lovely to see all of you here today. Thank you for coming. I'm Kathy Biala, and I've been a council member for 4 years, and I just got reelected for another 4, so you have me for another 4 years. So I want to thank our Mayor Bruce for tasking me to find 3 speakers for today's event. And don't worry, everyone, we're going to go fast. So hang in there with us. We got 3 speakers, but we're going to limit it so that we can get on to the day's event. I'm honored to introduce 3 of my personal marina friends to speak to you today. And our first speaker, Dr. Camilla Majid, is a professor of social work at CSUMB and is a consultant for meditative practices in diversity, equity, and inclusion leadership development. She is author of Joyfully Just, Black Wisdom and Buddhist Insights for Liberated Living. Camilla has been such an inspiration for me over such a long time. So let's welcome Camilla Majid. Doctor, thank you.
Good afternoon. One more time. Good afternoon. We got this glorious day for MLK Day. And I tell you, 2 quotes of MLK come to mind for me today. I'll be very brief. The first is when he was giving his Nobel laureate speech in Norway. And he said, I believe that unconditional love will win out in reality. He said that right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil, triumphant. And what he meant by that is that even when unscrupulous forces hold tremendous power, we can still have justice be triumphant if we empower our love for humanity. And in another quote, yes, right? Isn't it amazing? Like, his wisdom is so appropriate for our times. And in another quote, he talked about love. He said that love without power is sentimental and anemic, and power without love is reckless and abusive. That power at its best is love, correcting everything that stands against justice. So my invitation to all of us is that we empower our love for humanity. All of us say we love humanity and we care about the world and we care about the planet, but it has to be an empowered love, not a sentimental and anemic love. And the way we empower our love is by reflecting on how we take action. What are you going to do? What am I going to do next week to act on our love for humanity? What are you going to do in February? What are you going to do in March? In my book, Joyfully Just, I talk about how taking action for justice supports our mental health, because it helps us to not feel so disempowered by the discouraging realities of the world, but rather to have agency as engaged planetary citizens. So I invite you to put justice on your calendar, just like you put healthcare on your calendar. What are you going to do in February around Black History Month, in March around Women's History Month, in Asian Heritage Month? Like, you can read, you can expand your understanding, you can support organizations that are trying to advance justice, you can watch programming that informs your progressive action in the world. There's so much that you can do, and it's our responsibility to advance Dr. King's work. The last thing I'll say is I'd like to offer a free copy of this book to someone. I'm giving one to the library, but also if I can engage you in a very short, fun quiz. I'm a professor, what am I going to do? If you can tell me 3 of MLK's, the first person who can tell me 3 of Dr. King's primary issues, I'd like to offer you a signed copy of the book. The 3 issues he cared about. I'll give you one. We know one was racial justice, but what were the other 2? Anybody? Economic justice, and what else? Ending war. See, all right, I've got to give out 2, because you gave out one answer and you gave the other answer. Thank you so much. Please, let's empower our love for humanity and transform it into action. And lastly, tomorrow I'll be leading a day of racial healing at CSUMB. You're all invited. It's free, open to the public, and there'll be food. I'll be handing out some flyers for that. Thank you so much. Happy MLK Day.
Thank you, Camilla. Our next speaker is Feng Wen. is my friend and mentor of all things Asian American. He is a first-generation Vietnamese American professor at CSUMB and is chair of the Department of Humanities and Communication. He has been teaching Asian American studies for 8 years now, though he looks young, and is the father of 2 absolutely wonderful girls, and that's his wife, Betty. Okay, Fong. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fung Nguyen, and I teach Asian American history at Cal State University, Monterey Bay. It's a class where I share a lot of facts and figures, but what the students love the most, or enjoy the most, are the stories of how, despite social isolation and constant threat of violence, Asians tried their best to build communities, families, and a sense of belonging here. One such story is that of journalist, activist, and actor Victor Wong, born in 1929 in San Francisco. Despite being 4th generation Chinese American on his mother's side, despite only knowing life in America of living through the Great Depression, the New Deal, World War II, suburbanization, the golden age of radio and television, despite friendships with Beat Generation writers like Jack Kerouac, he admitted, quote, "It wasn't until the civil rights movement came along that I felt like I could become part of America." That's because no matter how American Victor Wong felt on the inside, the America of his childhood was a racial caste system. The Chinese Exclusion Act had been around for 50 years. It was against the law to intermarry, for immigrants to own property, where Asians could be stripped of their US citizenship simply for marrying another Asian, where the racially restrictive housing deeds, of which there were quite a few here on the Monterey Peninsula, forbid renting or selling to Asians, or even allowing Asians to dwell on the premises unless they were servants or housekeepers. Victor Wong, like many Chinese Americans of his generation, enrolled in Chinese school, not only to retain the language or stay off the streets, but also be equipped for a life in China, just in case things in America got that much worse. Chinese school was a hedge against having no place in the world to be able to call home. But the civil rights movement chipped away at this caste system. Finally, all races could become citizens. Finally, all races could attend the same schools. Finally, all races could intermarry. Victor's first wife was Olive Thurman, daughter of a Bay Area civil rights activist. Finally, all races could live in the same neighborhood. Finally, all races could work together. Finally, all races could vote together. Finally, all races would be welcome here. There was no stronger voice for this vision of America finally living up to its rhetoric than Dr. Martin Luther King. And in these times today, his vision, his words, and his guidance are more important than ever. MLK was well aware that some of the worst parts of our past were part of the American fabric. But he also believed it could be defeated with a different vision of America, defined by love, empathy, and inclusion. That love is the cure for hate. I didn't quite understand that until I had a chance to meet old school civil rights activists back in 2015. These people by that time were in their 60s and 70s, which means they were little children during the actual civil rights movement, which means they were out on the streets of Alabama and Georgia, risking their lives for more than just abstract principles or ideology. They were there to support their family, their friends, their neighbors, their church, their community. They could have stuck with the tried and true principle of working hard and staying out of trouble. But in the world of the Jim Crow South, there was no guarantee of survival without a fight for justice as well. Which means my survival depends on fighting for my neighbor's survival. Which is the perfect example of Martin Luther King's dictum that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That the path to justice and democracy runs through love, empathy, and selflessness. And it is this vision of MLK that brings us here today, and the vision we need more than ever to keep fighting, even if just to maintain the gains of the civil rights movement, because the empire always strikes back. And how we respond will determine the next chapter of our history and what kind of country we want to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wen. Our next and last guest speaker is Steve Zemak. Steve Zemak is a photographer and graphic designer who has lived in Marina for 30 years. He served on both public works and planning commissions in Marina and also served as a Sierra Club board member. I have known Steve in the capacity of a fellow fighter against racism in Marina. He truly walks the talk. Let's welcome Steve Zemak.
To be invited to speak to you today is one of the greatest honors of my life because this man is the greatest hero of my life. And I know this is supposed to be a day of celebration, but I have to tell you, I'm angry. I'm angry that after half a century, not enough has changed. I'm angry that my friend's parents were put in concentration camps right here in California. And just 4 years ago, children were taken from their parents at the border and interned, and women are losing their rights to govern their own health. I'm angry that my friends have been physically assaulted, their pets murdered, and their homes set on fire simply because they were born on the wrong side of a line on a map. And that they are treated differently by some teachers, parents, coaches, community and business leaders because they don't have European-sounding names or look European. I'm angry when I see a man hauled out of his car at a traffic stop, and if he's lucky, he's just humiliated, and if he's not, he's killed. I'm angry when another toxic polluting company is granted permits to keep on dumping in communities that can't afford lawyers, and when eminent domain is wielded like a weapon to destroy thriving communities. I'm angry when a bomb goes off in a house of worship or a person is beaten on the street for looking, thinking, or loving differently. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was angry too, and I'm sure many of you are, and he swallowed that anger in pursuit of his dream, our dream, and showed us a peaceful and higher road to freedom and equality. He said, "It's not enough for people to be angry. The supreme task is to organize and unite people so that their anger becomes a transforming force." When I was a kid and I would complain and rant to my parents about these injustices, and my dad would ask, "Well, are you a sympathizer or an activist?" I asked the difference, and he explained. A sympathizer is when you feel for the victims but don't do anything about it except complain. An activist does something about it. So I ask you, in front of one of the greatest activists in history, are you a sympathizer or an activist? Sympathizer or activist? Activist. So am I. This monument reminds us of the cost of freedom, which by its very name should be free, but it's not. And I'm sorry to say, it's not going to be for several more generations. So we teach the history and inspire the continued struggle. And where America falls short of our expectations, Marina lives up to them. And all of you here, taking your time out of this holiday demonstrates that. This monument of MLK demonstrates that. Everything printed on that monument, those are our shared values that we came together as a community and all agreed upon that this is what we stand for. But our work isn't done as we enjoy our conclave of acceptance. There's so much suffering, unnecessary tragedy, and seeds of hate continually sprouting like weeds in our colorful garden. What they could do to one of us, they can do to any and all of us. None of us are free until we are all free, and until we are all free, I'm angry. I like living in Marina. It was the little beach paradise I've been searching for since childhood. Its diversity is a huge attraction for my wife and I. It's so rich in culture. I can't imagine alienating any part of it to fit someone else's short-sighted agenda. So I vote. I work on political campaigns. I volunteer. I donate money. I use my artwork to affect social change. Marina isn't just magically like this. We have had, and we continue to have, great leaders who agree upon these values. And many of them are here today. And they work hard to make Marina not just a tolerant community, but an accepting one. Hopefully, Marina will be a model to follow, and eventually there will be many Marinas. So I ask you again, are you a sympathizer or an activist? Sympathizer or activist? Are we united as a transforming force? Thank you.
I'm going to take a photo with you. Quick moment to take a photo with the speakers. A lot of you have been waiting to hear the Monterey County Pops Orchestra. I think it's the first time we've ever had a professional orchestra play within the city boundaries of Marina. They contacted us. They wanted to be here. A lot of financial resources and time were given by the Monterey County Pops Orchestra to be here today. And so we in Marina are very thankful to all 40 of the orchestral members and their leaders, their conductor, Carl Christensen, their board of directors. It takes a lot of people for the Monterey County Pops Orchestra to be here in our community and our neighbors' communities year in, year out for many years. So let's give it up for the Monterey County Pops Orchestra.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve DeCarli. I'm the president of the Monterey County Pops. And on behalf of our board, as well as our musicians, I want to thank you for coming out today. And it's a great pleasure and privilege for us to perform in front of you this afternoon and to elevate the spirit of Dr. King. This concert came about, believe it or not, about 40 days ago when I got a call from Doug Lee, who's on our board, Bob Larson, and Mayor Delgado telling me that they wanted to do a Martin Luther King concert today, and that they could put it on in less than 40 days. So based on the turnout today, they were very, very successful, so I want to thank them. I also want to thank the city of Marina. It is something that, as we go around from city to city, what strikes me as a real privilege of living in Monterey County, and I see it today, the sense of community I see in the audience. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting the visions of Dr. King. With that, I'd like to introduce our orchestra and music director, Dr. Carl Christensen.
And I would like to introduce Jackie Craighead, who will lead us in the national anthem. Please rise, please, for the Star Spangled Banner. Thank you, Jackie. Please be seated, everyone. It's been a pleasure for us, a little rushed, but a real pleasure to organize this concert to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. In the old days, fanfares were for kings and queens and generals and things like that. So along came Aaron Copland, one of our greatest composers in the United States, and wrote something called the Fanfare for the Common Man. You'll recognize it. It seemed like an appropriate way to start our salute to Dr. King. We really feel that that exemplifies the strength of Martin Luther King that was alluded to by some of the speakers, and we enjoyed playing that for you. Of course, we're going to play some jazz, so next, traditional Dixieland jazz, Basin Street. Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. Is the mic on? There we go. Thank you very much. I hope everyone had a chance to pick up a printed program. We put quite a bit of thought into saluting African American musicians, composers, artists with the design of the pieces that we're going to play. And you'll hear a little bit about who those people are as we're moving through the concert. And I think it would be a nice souvenir of MLK Day to have that concert program. Not for us, but for the list of composers and artists represented there. Of course, it wouldn't be a Dixieland concert without When the Saints Go Marching In. This is kind of a concert version. Hope you enjoy When the Saints Go Marching In. Okay, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce David Adams, our associate conductor. He's our longtime principal trumpet. David, welcome to the podium.
Thank you, Carl. And we're going to do two pieces by black composers that have been known for a long time, but some a bit forgotten. One woman, Florence Price, was born in 1887, and came from a musical family. Her mom taught her piano, and then she was pretty bright. She graduated as valedictorian of her high school class at the age of 14. And then went to the New England Conservatory. So she was a pretty well-schooled person, fabulous musician, and did a lot of composing. Wasn't recognized in her time as much as we'd like to think. She was black and a woman, so she didn't get the fair breaks. And this one particular piece we'd like to play is called Juba Dance, and she composed it as part of her symphony, and this kind of put her on the map at this point. When the Frederick Strock, the conductor of the Chicago Symphony, wanted to do her music for the 1933 World's Fair. And so that was like, oh, who is this new person, this Florence Price, having this symphony performed at the World's Fair. So that kind of put her on the map. She was a single mother after a couple of divorces, and she was raising her kids on her own. And she had struggled for quite a while playing in theaters for, like movies and organs in church and so forth. So it was nice for her to finally be recognized. And of course, now in the last several years, she's been even more recognized. Symphony orchestras around the country have been playing her music. This is called Juba Dance, and a Juba Dance is a patent Juba, they call it. And it's a dance where people clap their hands and pat their laps and so forth, and do it. It's a percussive kind of thing. So this is Juba Dance, which is one movement of Florence Price's Symphony No. 1. Thank you. And then there's another now well-known composer from who was born just after the Civil War, like 1867, famous guy named Scott Joplin. You've probably heard of him, and you've surely heard his music, The Entertainer and Maple Leaf Rag, and he wrote a ton of rags. And he was another guy that came from a musical family. His mom taught him, and he got to play, and he was a busy working musician. His mom was cleaned houses, and would try to get into the best houses, the white families who had pianos, to clean their house. And she'd of course bring her son along so he could practice on a nice piano. Anyway, Scott Joplin started composing and playing in all kinds of bands over the years, and he was one of the early guys, one of the first guys that figured out, wow, if I'm going to make money being a composer, I need to work out the contract a little differently. In the olden days, when this went right through up until the 1970s, a composer would be paid a flat fee, $5. Here's your fee for composing this piece. And Scott Joplin was a guy that back in the early 1900s figured out, wow, rather than do that, why don't I insist that the publisher pay me like 1 penny for every copy that they sell. So all the sheet music you see, he was able to make a living doing that. This piece we're going to play for you is called The Cascades. He was living in St. Louis at the time in 1904, and there was a 1904 World's Fair. And there's one centerpiece which is got this waterfalls and all kinds of like fountains and so forth, and with the water to go down. He was fascinated by that, and he wrote this piece called The Cascades. It's by Scott Joplin.
And now for a little bit more traditional Dixieland. Sorry to see people leaving. Stick around. The best is yet to come. This is a piece called Tailgate Ramble. Quickly, the trombone is a big instrument in Dixieland. The slide, so they always made the trombone sit at the back of the wagon and face rear and stick their slides out the back. Hence, Tailgate Ramble. It will feature some smears by the trombone. Okay, and now a little gospel. I'd like to introduce Brenda Thomas, who will sing a famous gospel piece called Upon This Rock.
Others see with earthly eyes just what they want to see. You will see the things that never die. You will know and recognize by simple childlike faith the priceless truth that others still deny. When others say I'm just just a man who likes to dream his dreams. When others call a miracle, a miracle, he'll listen for eternity in moments as they pass, and see with spirit eyes what others miss. Upon this rock I'll build my kingdom, and on this rock forever and ever it shall stand. And all the powers of hell itself will never prevail against it, for Satan's throne is built on sinking sand. Upon this rock I'll build my kingdom, and on this rock forever and ever it shall stand. Upon this rock of revelation I'll build a strong and mighty nation, and it shall stand the storm of time. Upon this rock, if in a simple carpenter you see the Son of God, if you will choose to lose when you could win, if you would give your life away for nothing in return, then you are where my kingdom will begin. Upon this rock I'll build my kingdom. Upon this rock forever and ever it shall stand. And all the powers of strength and health shall never more prevail against it, for Satan's throne is built on sinking sand. Upon this rock I'll build my kingdom, and on this rock forever and ever it shall stand. Upon this rock of revelation I'll build a strong and mighty nation, and it shall fill the storms of blood. Upon this rock I'll build my kingdom, and on this rock forever shall stand. Upon this rock of revelation I'll build a strong and mighty nation, and I will stand the storm of time. Upon this rock I'll build my church. Upon this
Okay, we're going to get a bunch of big names in this next one. It's called A Salute to American Jazz. It's a medley. It starts out with Night in Tunisia, Dizzy Gillespie, St. Louis Blues, W.C. Handy. It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing, the great Duke Ellington. Salute to American Jazz. beautiful, Lord. I'll take it. Jarabe? Jarabe. ¿Hay latinos presentes? ¿Mexicanos? ¿Sí? ¿Guatemaltecos? ¿Sí? Acordamos que Martin Luther luchó para los derechos de todos, ¿no? De toda la gente. And we're going to play a Mexican piece that we play over in the Salinas Valley all the time, El Jarabe Tapatío. You're welcome to dance if you know this one. Okay, the next piece of music, if I remember correctly, Barack Obama was supposed to give a speech somewhere, and he got up and kind of cleared his throat and sang this song. Okay, I'd like to introduce you to the next guest performer. Shantae Sneed, come out, wherever you are. Okay. So, honoring the I Have a Dream speech seemed like the obvious thing to do today. It's kind of long, I discovered, so I asked Shantae to pick her favorite parts, and she'll tell you about that. And we're going to play underneath of her recitation, and be sure to turn the sound up a lot on the speaker and a little less on the band. And she will recite some of this. The mayor would like to say a little bit.
Shantae Sneed is a very inspiring person to know. She's an up-and-coming leader in Citizens for Sustainable Arena, so she had a lot to do with what's behind us and this event today. And we're really pleased that she was willing to be a leader today and give her recitation of her favorite Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream excerpts. Thank you, Shantae.
My name is Shantae Sneed, and I will be reading to you excerpts that I've chosen from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I Have a Dream. First, I want to share that when I first saw the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. bust statue over there, that I felt welcomed, seen, and heard. It was a reminder that this community's progress is ever growing, and that it was called to us to continue pursuing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream and unity. So now I'll begin. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Declaration of Independence, they were signing signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise to all men, yes, Black men as well as white men, that they were guaranteed an unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Now is the time to make the real promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of justice, racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. In the process of our gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. Again and again, the marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust of all white people. For many of our brothers today, as evidence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with ours. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. We must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are seeking the devotees of civil rights. When will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearthed suffering is redemptive. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Okay. Special treat. Kind of the reason that we assembled at this location is because in September 9th, 2023, we unveiled this beautiful Martin Luther King Jr. sculpture garden featuring a bust of Martin Luther King that about approximately the year 2000 was sculpted by the first ever African-American faculty member at Cabrillo College named Barrington McLean. This is Barrington McLean.
Thank you all for being here. The dream that I did here, that you notice over the sculpture there, started as a dream from a child. I mean, about 4 or 5 years old. I don't think I was 5 yet, but I remember going to on Sunday mornings. My mom would take me to the park, and I'll just sit around there and look at the sculptures and think about it, and just wonder how they did those things. And in the meantime, I kept trying to learn how to do little sculptures, and eventually I went to school and so on and so on and so on. But anyway, bottom line is we are on a march, and the march looks good, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very surprised and happy that you all are here. Especially watching the kids. The kids are like, just freaking me out. I mean, they remind me of my days. The dream. That's where it starts. And if it's not supported, we lose them. So it starts at kids. And I want to say when my mom would take me out on the Sunday mornings. This is interesting. But anyway, Sunday mornings, when I'm doing my little research, there was a young lady. There's a little girl sitting over there with her mom, the same time I'm there, and this is her. She didn't know. I didn't know. I was in the right environment, but we were on schedule, and here she is.
Who is she? As a support.
This is the little girl that was, Anyway, this is my wife, Norma. I couldn't be here right now without her at all. I remember going to when I was going to art school, and before I went to art school, and I told her I've got to go to art school, but we have to be married, and I said I have to leave. I'm in Panama. I'm going to art school in Oakland, and I had to leave I had to leave Panama to come to Oakland. So I left her over in Panama with my son. He's over there somewhere, and went to art school. It was a stretch, but eventually, a year later, she was with me, and we started a whole new thing in Oakland, and I had a wonderful time there, doing my. Well, again, we were limited. How many of us were at art schools? First of all, just to pay the money to go to art school it was exorbitant, still is. But anyway, that's the idea of being in an environment where it's only a few of us in a classroom full of people. And to get up and speak or to show your work or to just be present there. And I realized, in fact, at the same time that, well, one of the reasons that I came to the States was to become a part of the movement. So whatever it took me, I just was going to face it, and I did it. And the funny thing about it is I spoke English. And when people will approach me and I start speaking, they'll wonder, well, you don't sound like you're supposed to sound like. Like I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm educated, and I'm still educated, and I'm going to keep on being educated. And I'm going to drag as many of us together as possible to be educated as well and share with our talents. And thank you very much again. And this could go on and on and on and on, but I haven't got my slides to show. Thank you again. Thank you.
So Barrington sculpted that sculpture in about 2000, And then it went into storage about 12 years later. It was on the ground in the dust, kind of falling apart a little bit. So the city gave it back to Barrington in 2020 or 2021, and he refinished it to make it look ready for us. So thank you, Barrington, and to your wife, Norma. And what's your son's name over there who was hiding?
Gregorio.
Gregorius?
Greg.
Gregorio, thank you for taking care of Mom and Dad. And thank you for your support of Barrington all these decades.
Thank you.
And nobody does anything without support. And Shantae, you did a fantastic job. And this is your mom, Mary. Mary, tell us what it's like to raise Shantae.
Shantae is a prodigy. She's on her own. All I did was feed her.
So let's give it up for Barrington, Shantae, Mary, and Norma, and the Monterey County Pops Orchestra. And we got some more music coming.
I've got this one. Just a couple more. We'd like to next play Lift Every Voice. Some of you know this one. If you're so moved to stand and sing along with us, we'll do one verse of Lift Every Voice. Some of you might consider the band shell in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco has Lift Every Voice printed in huge letters above the stage of the acoustic shell in Golden Gate Park. Thank you very much. You've been a great audience. We like to finish our concerts with John Philip Sousa, Stars and Stripes Forever. Feel free to clap, march, whatever you want to do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Did everybody leave your music? Give your music to Ruth. Ruth will be picking up. Thank you so much, everybody. Such good sports. Freezing hot and polluted air. Thank you. Save the hat. Bring it to the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Okay.
So, was this a good event? It would not have been good enough if any of you did not come. So thank you for being here to enjoy and appreciate Martin Luther King Day Jr. and also this wonderful Monterey County Pops Orchestra. Thanks to Kona Jerry. Thanks for all the police. Thanks for the Public Works, the fire department. They were all here around us, making sure that we were safe and everything was ready to go in case we had any kind of emergency. So thank you to everybody for being a good team. This is what community looks like. Thank you for being part of it.